Okay, today we are going to do a tutorial on how to use our pen tool. Some of the keys, most of the quick keys are the same even though I'm on a Mac and you are on a PC, but we want to get this so that you're able to use the pen tool to draw some lines. In our shape tutorial, you use the line segment tool, which is located here, to draw a couple of straight lines as accents on the robot. Now we're going to use our pen tool so that we're able to create lines that kind of go together. With our line segment tool, that just allows us to draw straight single lines, and we can't really connect them to make new shapes. With our pen tool, we'll be able to draw lines that are continuous so that we can make shapes and eventually close them. Right? So when you open up your practicing with lines sheet or file, you'll notice there are 6 artboards. In the lower left hand corner you'll see 33%. That's how much we're zoomed out or zoomed in on it. And then you'll see this number. This number with a drop down menu will take you to the different artboards that are located within this. So we want to start with artboard number 1, and to move from artboard to artboard, all we need to do is press this little arrow next to our number, and that'll take us to our next one. So if you're working in artboards in the future and you want to jump from artboard number 5, say back to artboard number 1 because there's something you're working on, you can just go to that drop down menu and switch artboards. Okay, but for what we're doing today, we're just going to use this arrow because we're going to go through each artboard and practice using our pen tool. So on our first one, we're going to create this crown type shape. And you'll notice it's not closed. And it is possible to close these shapes so that you can fill them and things like that. But we are not going to close our shapes right now. So on the left hand in our toolbar, below our selection tool, you will see what looks like the tip of a fountain pen. You can click on that, or you can press the letter P, and that is your quick key to go to your pen tool. So throughout this tutorial I'll switch between my selection tool. If you remember, our quick key for that is the key V, and my pen tool, which is P. Okay. So with my pen tool now, anytime I make a line, okay, and I click it to make the end of the line, now when I come from that, I'm going to have another line connected to the anchor point that I just made. And what this allows me to do is make some more complex shapes that I can eventually close. And it gives you more options than, say, what our shape tool could give you on our previous tutorial. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of this shape that we just made. And now we're going to start on the ones that are here. So with my pen tool selected, I'm going to start on number 1, and I'm just going to give a single click on my mouse. And then I'm going to take my line up to number 2. I'm going to single click again, then move to number 3, and so on until I reach number 7 at the end. Now to end this, like I said before, we could close the shape, but because our shape at the top is open, and that's what we're mimicking, we want to stop this right here. So to stop creating new lines and new anchor points, all we need to do is go to our selection tool, which we can go to through our toolbar, or we can just press the letter V, and that'll give us our selection tool and end our pen tool. So now we have these lines that are in this crown shape. If you select it, it selects all of them and it moves all of them at the same time. Okay, so we'll take that back to where it began, and then we'll move on to our next one. So sometimes when you're doing this, you're going to want to make straight lines and straight corners. So to do that, we're going to do like we did with our robot to create perfect circles and perfect squares. We're going to use our shift key. So I'm going to click on start with my pen tool. I'm going to click on number 1. I'm just going to drag this out, and when I press shift, you'll notice the line goes to straight. If I take it further out, it goes to 45, and further out yet, it'll go back to straight at a 90-degree angle. So we're going to go up to number 2, I'm going to click, and I'm still holding my shift key because I want to come straight out to 3. And click. Now if I hold my shift key and I try to go to 4, you'll notice that the top of this arrow isn't necessarily a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to let go of my shift key, and that'll bring my line back down. So if I hold my shift key, it puts it up at a 45. I release it, allows me more control. So I go to 4, and then from there, again, you'll notice if I press the shift key, it's a little off. So I don't need to use the shift key on this. It'll be like it was on the crown. Now to go from 5 back to 6, I can drag it across, or I can be sure that it's straight by pressing my shift key again, and then again down to 7. Now that I'm done, I'm going to choose my selection tool by pressing the letter V, and I have my completed arrow. Again, like with the crown, once my completed arrow is done, it is a complete shape, and I can move it as a whole piece. Okay. On artboard number 3, we are going to learn to do curves. So you can see the curve that's here that I made, again, with my pen tool. We're going to get rid of that so we can make another one over the top. Again, press the letter P to get my pen tool, start on 1, and now what I'm going to do is when I click, I'm going to hold my mouse button down and drag this up to the red dot. When I do that, what that's telling my pen tool is that now I want to make a curved line. So when I pull away from that dot, you'll notice that I have a curved line. It's going to be tough to get that angle like that. So I click on 2 by holding my mouse button down. I'm going to drag that bar down to that red dot, and it creates that arc. Again, I've still got this, so I'm going to press the letter V for my selection tool, and now I have my arc right here. Okay. So this time we're going to try it down here on the bottom, only we're not going to have our red dots to show where we're dragging it to. So with my pen tool selected, I'm going to start here. I'm going to drag up. Again, not too far above the circle. Bring it over to my red point here, and then I'm going to drag that bar down. And I can adjust it from side to side to kind of fine tune it a little bit to get it to the arc that I want. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my selection tool so that that's an arc by itself. Now we're going to practice going the other way. So with my pen tool selected, I'm going to start here. I'm going to go straight up again, not too far above the top of the curve. Bring it over, and then click and drag down so that I can emulate and make that curve. Again, switch to my selection tool so that I now have a curve within the gray. Now we'll try doing a vertical curve. So again, start. I'm going to drag my bar up. Again, not too far above the arc. Create my curved line, and then again drag down below. Again, I can fine tune my arc a little bit just by going to either side. And then my selection tool. So once I have those arcs done independently, now we're gonna look at how to connect arcs to other arcs. So if you switch over to artboard number 4, you'll notice we have this swervy snake line. For this one, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so that I can get on top of all of this. Okay. So at our start point, I'm going to choose my pen tool again. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to drag up to that red dot, and then over to my number 2. Click, drag that bar down to my red dot, and this time, rather than going to my selection tool, my next line is automatically going to be curved. So I take that to number 3 and do the same thing. Drag it up to my red dot, and my next line will automatically be curved. Now you'll notice now that I'm at the end, I'm going to choose my selection tool. You'll notice that red points and the arrows kind of faded out as you went along. That's because I want you to get used to looking at the curve and how it meets with the gray one behind it, as opposed to dragging to certain spots. So as we go to the bottom of artboard number 4, now's the time for you to practice without having those anchor points there. So choosing my pen tool, I'm going to start here. I'm going to drag up, bring my arc over. Again, I'm going to drag down until I'm in that arc. That's there. You'll notice these arcs aren't all the same. So sometimes you need to angle your bar to the right or to the left in order to match what is there. So when I bring this up, I need to skew it just a little bit in order to match my arc. This one's a little further off. Okay. And that's how you create that snake line all the way through. All right. So zooming back out, we are now going to go to artboard number 5. And this is going to show us how to create the scallop look where all our arcs are pointing up. Whereas before it was easy to drag, you just dragged and it went to the next one. So zooming in on the top of the artboard, there are some typed directions here that'll give you both the key options for Macs and Windows. Okay. So going to my pen tool, I'm going to start on number 1 and drag up to my red dot and then come over to number 2 like we did before. I'm going to click and drag down to this yellow dot. Now this time, when I'm on here, I'm not going to let go of my mouse button. Instead, I'm going to press the Alt button and I'm going to swing this back up to this red dot. And what that's going to do is it's going to change that bottom anchor point for my next arc. So it gives me an arc like the first one. So now I'm going to release my Alt button and my mouse button, and that allows me to build off this bar for the next arc. So again, I'm going to take it over to number 3. I'm going to click and drag down to the yellow dot, press my Alt key, and move my anchor point up to that red one, so it's back on the top. And this allows me to create arcs that go in the same direction. Okay, again to my yellow, press my Alt key without releasing my mouse, and then when I get back up here I can release both, take it to number 6, and create my arc there. Okay, and then my selection tool to end my line making. So now we'll go to the bottom of page 5 and we will do the same thing. So I'm going to go, choose my pen tool, bring it up. Okay, that's going to allow me to do my first arc. When I come back down here, now I'm going to press my Alt key, swing this back up, release both my Alt key and my mouse, put this back here, create my bars for changing my arc, press my Alt key, while I'm still on here and holding it, press my Alt key, with my mouse button still clicked, press my Alt key, swing this bar up, release both the mouse key and my Alt key until I get here, hold my mouse button down, get it into position, press my Alt key, bring that bar back up, release both, click on the mouse and drag, Alt key, anchor, and then finish my last arc and my deselection tool. Okay, so that's how you create arcs that go in the same direction. Sometimes you will reach a point though where you're not just going to be creating a bunch of arcs in a row. So the practice on artboard number 6 shows us how to create straight lines within our arcs or next to our arcs. So again, like with 5, I'm going to zoom in on this top part. You'll notice that there are type directions on here as well, but I will walk you through it verbally. So again, I'm going to choose my pen tool by pressing the letter P. Start at 1, click and drag up to the red dot like we did for our other arcs. Go to 2, pull our arc down, and then we're going to click there. Now, our next line segment is automatically an arc. To stop that and get a straight line, we're going to go back to our center point, or you'll notice the word anchor show up. We'll click once, and that'll give us back to a straight line. When we go over to number 3, I'm going to click, and this time my next line, I'm going to drag up to 3, release, so I get my arc, drag up to 4, release. Now come back down to my anchor point, click once, brings me to 5, click once, click another time, go up in the direction of my arc, bring my arc over, and adjust. And then at the end, hit V, so I have my selection tool. So now going down to the practice at the bottom, we'll do this once again. Choosing my pen tool. I'm going to start at this orange dot. I'm going to click, drag up so that I have my bar for my arc. Bring my arc over, drag down. Get it in its spot. Go back to this center anchor point. Click once for my straight line across. Click once. Now I'm going to click again to create my bar for creating my arc. Drag it over. Get here, click and drag so that I can get my arc on the bottom. Find my spot for it. It's a little off. Go back to my middle point where it says anchor. Click once so that I get back to my straight line. Click again to end that straight line. Click and drag so that I can get my arced line segment. Oops. Take it over to red, click and drag so that I can create my arc like so, and then finish with my selection tool. So that's how you're able to create arcs and different shapes and forms with your pen tool, so that you're able to create some more organic shapes that are closed. That'll come in handy, especially later when we start to do a little bit more design that where you're basing it off of drawings that you've done outside of class. So make sure you save your file and practice, and you submit it through Schoology so that I can see the progress you've made with your lines.